So there are a bit of challenges, but most of the time you're alone. In terms of racism and all of that,
And being undermined.
I never used to take myself too serious, and that helped me a lot. So when people used to do things, I never thought it was about me. I thought, maybe they like that. It's got nothing to do with me.
With you.
It's them. So that's how you survive, and also creating your own brand.
Welcome to another episode of Sisters in Conversation. I'm your host, Tebello Motwane. I'm an attorney by profession and the founder of a platform called Sister in Law, which is a platform dedicated to empowering women through legal education. On today's episode, I'm joined by Keneilwe Radebe, who is a lecturer at the University of Pretoria. Keneilwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tebello, and thank you so much to everyone else who's watching.
Thank you for honoring the invitation. Yeah, I always get nervous when I have to ask people to come onto the show. And, although I've never received a no, you never know, like you never know. So thank you so much for honoring the invite with enthusiasm. It's such a pleasure to have you in studio today. Let's start from the beginning, as I do with all my guests. Who is Keneilwe? Where were you born and raised? Are you firstborn? How many siblings do you have? Yeah. Where did you go to primary, high school?
Keneilwe is from Atteridgeville. I'm the only child.
Oh.
I went to Elma College High School. I went to several primary schools. We moved a lot with my mother when I was still young, raised by a single parent. And Keneilwe is just a simple, ordinary girl from Atteridgeville. And a bit friendly, a bit friendly. I love people, and I've always been, when you're the only child, you have you are responsible. Contrary to popular beliefs, some people think you're the only child, so you're spoiled.
Yeah.
But no. It's quite the opposite with me.
Because you had to stay at home alone from a young age,
yes.
while your mom was working or whatever.
Yes. So very independent. My friends are my aunts. And you can imagine the age gap. So from a very young age, I knew that, you know what, I need to survive on my own. And I've been surrounded by women. So success and everything is not something that surprises me. I've always been surrounded by successful women, and I always knew that it's possible.
I love that. So did you move around a lot, primary school, because of your mom's job, or your mom was just kept on upgrading you, basically?
I think it was upgrade. I'm trying to remember the primary schools I went to. It was JJ, the first one, and then Lodium Primary, and then Burgerite Primary. So it was upgrades, and then at some point we moved to Pretoria West. So we're living in Atteridgeville, then we moved to Pretoria West. So that meant I had to change schools. But that didn't affect me that much. I had a very supportive mother. So I wasn't really that affected by the change.
The moving. And then you only attended one high school?
Yes.
Was that an all-girls school or co-ed?
No, co-ed. Very close to home. I had fun. But in high school, that's
fun because it was close to home, or you just had a good experience at high school?
Yeah, the high school in itself was very fun. We had I had a lot of friends who had quite a good sense of humor. So my high school years, I remember laughing a lot.
Yeah. Those were the best years of our lives. Looking back,
Yeah.
those were the best years of our lives.
But then I also learned how mean young people are. So I think that also helps me now with my career as a lecturer. So I don't take things personally. So I know that, no, they're still young. They are going to laugh and all of that. So I don't take it personally. I'm thinking, no, it's part of their development. They are going to laugh,
Yeah, that's so true.
let them laugh. Don't stop them from laughing. And the jokes, most of the time, it's not really about you. They're also trying to survive. They're also trying to make their high school lives, or not their high school lives, but they're making their lives meaningful, enjoyable. And also there's a lot of pressure that students go through, studying and all of that. So humor helps a lot.
Because if we don't laugh, we'll cry.
So that high school thing, it really helped me, because I was one of those people. I was very quiet, but I was one of those people who would laugh a lot. I'd be one of those people who'd start jokes, but in a very quiet.
You guys are actually the worst.
In a very quiet. Yeah. And I'd have,
because like la papa, but like under the carpet.
Yeah. So I'd have a lot of friends, hey? Because,
they knew.
We'd have humor, but we never showed people that we're laughing at them. It always used to be
like inside jokes.
An inside joke, So that helped me a lot.
The worst. I know those under carpets.
Yeah.
And then what made you decide to study law? Do you have maybe someone who has a legal background in your family, or it was inspired by a TV show? Career day.
There's no one in my family who's a lawyer. No, I can't think of anyone. It was inspired by a high school excursion. So we went to the University of Durban, Westville. It was on a camp. So the whole purpose of the camp was to help students to find their talents and to exhibit different careers and so forth.
All the way in Durban?
Yes. So we were in grade 11. And so different people from different careers came and they made presentations. And the law just stood out for me because I wanted to be versatile as well. So they actually pointed out a career where you can be actually versatile. So I loved that. And then another thing was that I wanted a very highly professional career because academically I was quite strong. So I knew that I want a very powerful career. I always loved power for myself. So
and where did you then study?
University of Pretoria.
Okay. And did you carry on with, your jokes? What was your varsity life like? Were you one of those, students who book, or would you like go out, have fun, like just paint the town red?
I continued with the jokes. I did. But with me, it was about business, hey? It was business. So when I studied, I really studied. I didn't know some of the spots, hey, even on campus. The chilling spots where people eat and all of that. When I was an undergrad student, I didn't know of those things. So everything to me was about business. I knew that I had to study, and that was it. So I had jokes. I had nice friends. We joked around, but it was strictly studying. I used to attend a few functions. At UP, we have Reg Farm, I think, and then Spring Day. Yes. So those were the times when I had fun. But most of the time, it was work. And then I always wanted to be independent, hey? So in my second year, I worked as a tutor. So from 2006 until 2008. But as much as I was friendly and I had fun, it was, studying to me was just
non-negotiable.
Studying. Yeah, it was non-negotiable. Yeah.
And were you part of any like SRCs? Yeah, you were not part of any. No. So it was just study the whole time and work.
It was studying and tutoring.
Yes, so those 2 years of tutoring.
Yes, no SRC, no.
And what was the tutoring like? What made you interested in wanting to tutor? Were your marks very strong for those subjects that you had an interest in tutoring? How did you get into that?
I wanted to be independent. I wanted to have a bit of money without asking at home that, can I have some money?
Did you stay at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I stayed at home. I used to travel. So I wanted a bit of money. And I lectured historical foundations to South African private law. And then it was very complex.
I'm just thinking about,
So I battled a lot with the module. I battled, but then I loved history a lot. And then so I would actually sit there in class and think, no, I think there's a way that we can actually explain some of these concepts much better. So when the opportunity came to apply to be a tutor, I thought, no, why not? Because I think there's an easier way to explain some of these concepts. So that's why I actually wanted to be a tutor there.
And you managed to do just that. You were able to explain those concepts better.
I tried.
Yeah,
I did my best.
So you had to be in second year.
Yeah.
To be able to tutor a first year module.
Yes.
Okay,
So I applied end of my first year, and then the results were quite good. And it was one of those subjects that intimidated me a lot. So yeah. So what the lesson that I've learned is that if something intimidates you a lot, that's definitely where you should be.
That should be the area of focus. So, there are a lot of students who listen to this show. How did you get into it? Was there like a notice on the notice board, or do you have to then, search on the department's website for vacancies? How did you get into it?
I looked at the other tutors. We had tutors in first year. So I asked them that, what's happening? How did you get the job? And all of that. So that's how I found out about advertisements and all of that. So I relied a lot on the senior students.
And do you remember what the rate was back then? Were you like paid hourly?
Not hourly. We were paid monthly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but it was quite a comfortable...
for a student.
Yeah, I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
I was quite comfortable and happy.
And the fact that you were already on campus,
Yeah.
I like the convenience that it's not like you had to, in varsity I worked retail.
Ooh.
So I had to then travel from UJ to Sandton.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it would be a little bit, and then I stayed in Midrand. So sometimes you'd then be commuting 3 times a day. So I like the comfort of tutoring on campus. You're already there. I love that. And then also, that role in a way is also a way of networking, ne? Like
a lot of
meeting
networking,
new people.
A lot of networking, and then you also become a role model. So when you're a tutor, you can't fail. So people are watching you.
Yeah, okay.
So,
and then you graduated. Did you graduate top of your class?
No, I wouldn't say top of my class, but I was always on the dean's merit list. So I think you had to score 75% for all your... So it's all your modules.
From first year?
Yeah, I suspect it's from first year. So 75 and above. So they calculate or they add all the modules together.
And when in your varsity career did you learn that, you had to, if you want to be an attorney, you must pursue your articles? When did you learn about articles? When did you secure articles?
Well, when I studied law, I knew that I had to be a lawyer. I thought, no, when you study law, you have to be a lawyer. So even from first year, I started to I was on the lookout. And then I think because of the tutoring job, I became a bit connected. So through my networks, I was able to get a bursary.
Okay.
So a law firm paid for my studies from 3rd year to 4th year. And then I also worked or served my articles with them.
Was that automatic? Like, we're going to pay for your bursary, and when you're done, you're going to serve
articles.
the 2 years of articles?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. And how was your articles experience?
My articles were tough. Articles are very, very tough. But
Also in Pretoria.
Yes,
Fiona,
also
you've
in
just been a
Pretoria.
Pretoria girl through and
Yes.
through.
I've been a Pretoria girl.
Yeah.
Been a Pretoria girl, but I'm a Pretoria girl, but I'm very flexible. So I think life now wants me to be in Pretoria, but if I were to move somewhere else, I think I would adapt and adjust.
Yes. So how was your experience during articles?
So
Was
articles
tough?
were tough. Eh? Articles were very tough. You saw that, okay, this is the real world. And the funny thing about articles is that the lessons that I've learned, I only remember them now. So when I was doing articles, I thought, nah, these people are out to make us suffer. But now I remember those good lessons. Hard work, quality work, integrity, reading. And also they used to mention something like the power is in the writing. So immediately when you write something and you send it out in the law firm's name or in your name, it's already out. So now I'm very cautious. I don't just write emails.
Okay, I love that.
Even on social media and whatever, I don't just write. I'm thinking, you know what?
The power is in the writing.
Yes, once it's out, it's out. I've made good friendships from serving articles. I've met very wonderful people there. So serving articles was quite good for me because you get to realize that you need to invest in your career. You really need to invest in your career. You can't just get things easy. And then on the Pretoria side, I've not only been in Pretoria, I also worked in Mafikeng as well.
Oh, okay.
Which was,
You did say offline earlier.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, what did I want to ask? So then, did you then do your board exams? Did you write all 4 at one go? Because when business all the way.
No. I think I split them, hey?
Okay.
I did 2.
I
did 2. I think it was August.
Yeah.
And then I did the other 2
the following year. In like March.
Yes. Because you have to wait 6 months before you can actually
qualify.
Yeah. So I split them.
Okay. All right. That's good. So tell me about how you then got to working. Okay. Why did you then decide that practice is not for you? Was it because of how difficult articles were and you just thought maybe the practice in itself is toxic?
I think the feeling was mutual there. I didn't enjoy it. And then I wasn't retained. Yeah, so the feeling was mutual. But then I've learned that in life, there's a time when you have to say goodbye. You have to say, well, guys, you helped me out a lot, in terms of the bursary and then working these 2 years. So when it was time to go, I really left because I thought, no, that's fine.
The season was done.
Yeah, it was done. So it was parting in a very, nicely so, So I didn't enjoy it. Also because of my age.
Were you older at the time?
No, I was quite young.
You were younger than
when
most.
you're young, you think things are easy. And then with law, you see power, you see beautiful cars. You don't see the whole purpose. Yeah, you don't see the hard work of that. Yeah.
Sure. And then how did you then, you said you worked as a legal researcher.
Yes. So I worked as a legal researcher at the Mafikeng High Court, Northwest High Court, just for a few months. But it was a very wonderful experience.
How did you find that job?
I applied. I just checked on websites and everything, and then I applied. It was the most difficult interview, hey? It's very difficult. So when they called, I thought, are you serious?
You did your interview telephonically?
No, it was, how was it? It wasn't Skype. I think it was a video interview. So they interviewed me.
Maybe it was Skype.
No, it wasn't that. The technology was not that. No, they didn't use Skype. It was a video conference or something like that. So they interviewed me from Mafikeng, and I was at. So it falls under the Department of Justice. So I was in the offices at Momentum in town. I was there, and then it was a video interview. It was so difficult.
And I was going to say, when you say so difficult, like what do you still remember the questions? What made it difficult? Or was there a lot of interviews, like were you first interviewed by 2 people, then interviewed by 4? What made it difficult?
What made it difficult was that they could see through me. So some interviews I can go and give people what they want to hear. But with that one, they could see. They could really see, because I could see smiles and everything.
They're like, "Where now?"
And they're like, is it? Okay. So that was the difficult part, that they could actually see through me that, okay, this is, yeah.
They're
so that was
selling
the
us.
difficult.
They are selling us.
So that is the difficult part, you know.
And what did your role as a legal researcher entail? Like, what was the day-to-day activities? What did a typical day look like?
So our office was in the library, in the High Court. So we worked for the judges, and then we also worked for the court. So anything that they need with regards to legal research, they'll just call us. So we are stationed at the library, and if a judge needs a bit of legal research, they'll call us. And then we also used to go to court and listen to a few matters, what happens and all of that. But we did a lot of legal research. So a judge would explain to you what matter they're dealing with, and then they'd ask you questions. But the judge would in most cases know what they want, but they just sought confirmation from you. So you had to make sure that you give them information that's up to date, cases that are up to date. So you do your research and then draft the memo for the judge. And then if they needed anything else in court, they would call you. If they needed a registrar or anything like that, they would call you, you know.
Is that the same as a judge's clerk?
Yeah.
It was the same?
Yeah,
okay.
exactly the
just
same.
called a legal researcher.
Yes.
Then you said you worked for a few months. Why? Was it a contract, or you just eventually got bored and you wanted to, go back to Pretoria?
It was a contract job, so I wanted a permanent job. So immediately when I found a permanent job in Pretoria, I thought, let me go for it. But I enjoyed working at the...
Did you have family in Northwest? Like, what made you go to Northwest?
Didn't have
to move for a few months, like, finding a place now to stay?
I didn't have family. I just wanted a job. And I thought, if the next job that's available is in Mafikeng, then so be it. I'm going there. So I had to start from scratch, getting to know people. And a lot of people discouraged the whole thing, the move. They said, but you from Atteridgeville and you're going to Mafikeng. That's like a rural place. And when I got there, I actually had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun because whenever I travel, when I go somewhere else, I leave my home behind. I'm thinking, okay, we're in Joburg now. I'm from Pretoria. This is Joburg. Pretoria is back then. So same as with Mafikeng. I thought, okay, now we're in Mafikeng. Atteridgeville is Atteridgeville. We can visit. Yeah. So I enjoyed.
So it wasn't
myself.
a difficult transition for you. You what's the word? You took it on with like the bundles are gone. With excitement,
yes.
and enthusiasm. That's the word I'm looking for.
No,
you took it on.
it was actually quite difficult. Hey?
Really?
Yeah, I did it. It wasn't enthusiasm. It was just survival.
Yeah.
Survival, and then it took me a long time to get a job. So eventually, when I got a job,
from articles to Northwest.
Yeah,
basically.
it took me about 6 months.
Yeah, that's so long.
So I thought, no, let me just go. It took a while, hey? It took a while, and then I saw my colleagues. They showed me my colleagues. They said, oh, those are the people you'll be working with. And then they were very nice people. So I thought, man, And they also used to laugh at me a lot because of the lingo. So I used to speak Sipitori. They spoke Setswana. And then they used to laugh every time I spoke.
What
they
are
would
you
laugh.
saying?
They would laugh,
Why wouldn't you laugh at them?
So they'd laugh, and then I thought, but that's not funny.
It's just sipitori, like yeah.
And I thought, but that's
goodness.
not funny.
And they knew you were from Pretoria, so I don't know why. Yeah. And then you found a permanent job as a lecturer at the University of Pretoria. You had applied, or they didn't call you because you were a tutor before. Okay.
I applied, and getting into UP was quite difficult. I don't know. I think I went, maybe there's 2 or 3 interviews. So I always wanted to go back there.
And this was pretty much like, what, 3 years after you graduated?
That was after my articles.
So it would have been around
Yeah.
3 years after
Yeah,
you
that was my
graduated.
articles. So I applied a lot of times, and then eventually they said, okay, yeah, now you can come.
And then, okay, and you've now been a lecturer for 13 years. How is it being in the academic space? Was this something you envisioned when you were growing up, or it just found you?
I always thought I was going to be a lawyer, like practice. But then I noticed how I relate with people. I tend to be a bit patient. So teaching came naturally. So same as with lecturing, it came naturally. But then lecturing is very hard because, in terms of getting respect, it takes time.
Sure.
It takes a lot of time.
And kind of at that time, is it first year students? So high
Second
school.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're also still a little bit, underdeveloped. So it's also still jokes, it's still vibes.
So you'd find students making fun of you, and yeah, it wasn't easy. And then remember, you're competing with professors. There's people who've been there for a long time, so it takes a long time for you to finally find your
Be part of the
feet
fabric.
and, Yeah, but then I thought to myself, it's my career. There are students, but at the end of the day, it's my career.
What are those dynamics like? We always speak about corporate South Africa, but when we think about corporate South Africa, I don't know if we really think of, that community of lecturers and professors as having those kind of struggles that corporate South Africa has, like, managing people relationships and being undermined sometimes, those kind of aggressions, racism, sexism, ageism. Do you experience those as well within that community of lecturers and professors?
You do, but with lecturing, you get to be alone most of the time. So being micromanaged, it's a bit rare. It won't happen a lot. So when you're a lecturer, you're almost like a manager. You manage your time. You have a timetable. You need to lecture. You need to mark. So as much as there might be difficulties, like, it's very different from corporate in the sense that you're an individual. You work alone most of the time. So there are a bit of challenges, but most of the time you're alone. In terms of racism and all of that.
And being
undermined. I never used to take myself too serious. And that helped me a lot. So when people used to do things, I never thought it was about me. I thought, maybe they're like that. It's got nothing to do with me.
With you.
It's them. So that's how you survive. And also creating your own brand. You must also know, I think you must know from an early age that you're creating your own brand. You might be at a certain organization or institution, but at the end of the day, you have to create Keneilwe, Radebe. You yourself, not the institution. But they have resources. So what I looked at the university and I thought, but the university, there's a lot of resources. What can you do here? When you leave, what can you actually benefit and what can you leave behind?
Like a legacy type.
A legacy. So it's different from corporate in the sense that you work alone. They say it's flexible hours, but it's flexible. But you might find yourself working at 10 p.m. at night or 12.
Preparing lectures.
And then you also, when you're a lecturer, you have to be very involved. You really, really have to be involved. I don't think we knock off. You do knock off, but then when you go home, you continue with whatever you're doing. And I think it's a bit of a calling to be a lecturer or an educator. It's not the most, some people think it's not so attractive. You must have a bit of a calling to do it because no one will tell you that, you know what, you need to work. It's something that has to come
naturally.
but I wouldn't. It's for me. I enjoyed it more than corporate because I could have my own voice. I could be myself. So with corporate, and another thing is that I don't like to belong. I don't like to belong. It never worked. I tried to belong even with groups, with friendships. I never belonged. I always stood out. Not I don't know how I stood out, but I always stood out somehow. You know, there was something. If people said something, I would just say something very out of the ordinary, and people would start laughing. So then I noticed that no, I'm actually not meant to
fit in.
No, I'm not meant to fit in. I'm meant to be my own self and just stand out.
Sure. I remember, like, you know, sometimes in varsity, you'd get the lecturer who, towards the end of the, you know, quarter or the semester, they're trying to like rush through the work, or then a lot of the content becomes like self-study at home. How did you eventually just get into the groove of knowing at what pace, if I can put it that way, to go in order to teach your module within the 6 months, within that semester, or within the time that whether it was, you know, a quarter or a quarter of a semester? How did you eventually get your pacing right?
From experience, looking at how people did it, and then being a lecturer, it's a very intellectual job. You have to be very strong intellectually. And I also looked at practice as well. I didn't practice a lot, but then I had friends who were in practice. So I used to speak to them a lot, and I used to find out what exactly, how should we train our students. But it's an intellectual job. And I also placed myself in the students' shoes as well. But in terms of the planning, I didn't struggle much because I used to copy some of the senior colleagues. You know, if something has been done before, then, you know, take it from there and then continue.
There's no need to change the formula that works, basically.
So in some instances, really, I'd learn from senior colleagues and check what they're doing. Like study guides, I'd probably look at an older colleague study guide and see what they do and all of that. But also try to remember practice as well. You're not teaching them for fun. You're teaching them to go into practice as well.
Right? Yeah.
And then also knowing that you need to, the standard must always go up and up. The first lectures is going to be a bit of an introduction. And then as soon as you go up, the intensity must just also go a bit up.
So are you currently teaching, what year students are you teaching?
Second year and fourth year.
Which modules?
So second year, it's constitutional law. So it's the Bill of Rights.
Your constitutional law used to dribble me, hey?
Yeah, and without the constitution, I don't know how you survive.
Hey, that module dribbled me. Okay, and then, and fourth year?
Media law.
And, what did I want to say? How did you get into deciding that those are the modules that you know, will excel at? And are you also, as a lecturer, graded on the ability to make pass rate, to make a certain percentage of students pass that module? Like you have to have a strong pass rate in order for, you know, the institution to allow you to come back as a lecturer or whatever?
Well, in terms of choosing the modules, I was just given the modules. When I started, I lectured media law for a long time. So I only started lecturing constitutional law 2020. So all this time it was media law. It was just given to me. I just got there, and then an older colleague thought, nah, my workload is a lot. So continue with media law. I love media law because it's not only a law subject. And when I started to teach media law, I was quite privileged. So I taught LLB students, and then I taught students from humanities who are busy with journalism.
Oh, I love
So that exposed me a lot. So from an earlier age, or from an early stage in my research, I started to know that there's a link between the law and social science. And then constitutional law, it was just given to me. It's not something that I chose. And then in terms of pass rates, it's good for you as a lecturer, to have your students to pass, because it's a bit of a reflection on you.
Yes.
But then in terms of lecturing, it's usually your output that gives you a bit of value, like your articles, your publications. That's where your voice, that's actually your voice. That's where your voice matters mostly. But then I think your students remember you somehow, Yeah.
So, is media law an elective? I just want us to focus on media law a little bit because, like I said, there's students who listen to this, and maybe for some, I feel like with constitutional law, we all sort of go through it in second year. But media law sounds to me like it would be an elective.
Yes.
And like, what exactly, can you put it in practice for us? Like, what is the typical media law case that you would be, teaching on? Just paint it out in a practical way for the listener.
So media law is an elective course, and then it deals with Section 16 of the Constitution. So your right to freedom of expression. So the students have to know what the right to freedom of expression entails. So they need to know what forms of expression are guaranteed by the Constitution or are protected by the Constitution. So that's where we introduce them to hate speech as well. Your defamation cases, your right to privacy. We also deal with intellectual property as well. So if someone says something about your brand in the media and so forth. So with media law, there's a link between media law delict, and intellectual property and constitutional law. So with media law, we deal with cases involving someone infringing your right to dignity, and so forth. And then a practical example is I was once invited to a guest lecture which dealt with something called slap suits, where people are intimidated. So you find that you make comments about a big corporation or make comments about a big person in government and so forth, and then they threaten you and they say, if you continue to talk about us, we're going to file a defamation case against you. So those are the things that we deal with. And then entertainment law, it's something that I'm thinking of introducing.
Into media law into the varsity?
Into media law. Okay. It's something that I've not really considered so much because I think it fell... I thought that it goes a lot more with trademarks and intellectual property.
The entertainment side.
Yes, but then it's something that I actually want to incorporate into the module.
So it's going to then just be called media and entertainment law?
No, we're just going to have a bit of maybe one study thing
like an
that deals with, yes.
Yeah.
And then...
That's interesting. Do you have a standalone entertainment law elective?
No.
Okay.
No. But I suspect that some issues are touched in intellectual property. But you find some students don't really like intellectual property that much. So it might help if we also include it in media law, that aspect of entertainment law. So that if they don't catch it during the intellectual property lectures, then at least they have a bit of a reminder in the media law classes.
And then do you have insights to what somebody who, decides to carry on with media law even into practice, do you have insights of what the practice of media or entertainment law entails?
Yeah, there's a lot of things to do with regards to media law. Intellectual property firms, they do a bit of media law as well. I can make a case of, but that's a very old example. There was a case of Verimark and BMW. So Verimark was advertising car polish, and they used BMW. And then BMW was like, no.
The one with the fire on the bonnet. That advert.
I suspect.
remember there was like a car polish that,
Yes,
you
I
know,
suspect.
there was a, I remember, I think it was a maroon BM.
Yes,
with
yes,
fire
spot
on the
on.
bonnet.
Yes, spot on.
Yes.
I think it was maroon or red.
Yeah.
So you spot on there.
Okay.
So with intellectual property, media law is a bit involved because that was an advert. So BMW said, no, you can't use our car because we're thinking that our car is actually, you're gaining a bit of an advantage by using our car. And then there's also a bit of competition. Usually, I think also BMW had an advert where they said that their cars beat the Benz.
Yes. Built to beat the Benz.
Beat the Benz. And then you also have your chicken licken. Sometimes they have some adverts that are not racially good and so forth. So there's a lot of things to do with media law. And then what else? Politicians as well. You might have to represent them.
Okay.
And so there's quite a lot of things to do.
If for somebody who'd be interested in, going further with that,
Yes.
are there firms that specialize, if I can say in that, or do you sort of have to get into a firm and almost build that kind of practice for yourself?
A lot of firms specialize in that, in media law. And I've seen there's a lot of advocates as well that deal with media law. And then when I remember there were some law firms that used to give out prizes for best students in media law.
Okay.
And then some of the times they send us advertisements for students who are studying media law and for them to maybe apply to their firms and so forth. So it's quite established.
It is quite
established.
Now.
And our author, I think it's 2 authors who've authored the media law textbook that I'm using. They are in practice. So it's quite established in practice.
Oh, that's interesting. I think it's so interesting how the face of like law has also just changed because, I mean, when I was studying, I didn't have media law. Like we didn't know that was a thing. And I think even now there's a specific elective for ICT.
Yes.
Yes. I think there's even now room for like cyber law,
the cyber law.
Yeah. So I really like how the legal space has transformed really to meet the growing audience, if I can say, of the specific areas of practice. Very, very interesting.
Which is one of the things that attracted me to law, because I knew that with law, there'll always be something. It's a lot of, we have a lot of lawyers, but the work, a lawyer's work is always a lot. There'll always be room for lawyers.
Because I always say that it's so diverse that every single company has a legal department.
Yes.
Like makeup.
Yes.
Legal department. Retail stores. Legal department. Telecom. There's legal in every single company. There is a legal or there is a need for contracts.
Yes.
But you can't exist without the law.
And I mean, unfortunately, what I've noticed, people even love lawyers more than doctors. You can see how people brag about their lawyers.
Yeah, my lawyer. Yeah. No one ever says, and my doctor said, but my lawyer said, then.
So that should tell you a lot about the power of law. The power of law.
Just, what are some of the challenges? Because I can imagine that, the 10, 13 years haven't been without their challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered and how did you manage to really just, step out or bring yourself out of those challenges? And while we talk about challenges, we can also just speak about the moments, the highlights, that's the rewarding moments that stand out to you. When was the time where you just thought to yourself, I'm in the right place and I'm really good at what I do?
You know what? I suspect from day one I knew that I was at the right place.
Okay. I love that.
So the challenges that I faced was winning the students. You know, winning the students' trust. I mean, they're seeing you're very small, soft spoken, and they're thinking, like this one.
Tutoring
What is she doing here? I didn't have a master's at that time, you know. So the greatest challenge is having your own voice, you know,
Yeah.
establishing yourself as a lecturer, being independent, being recognized. That's a big challenge. And then one of the biggest challenges is also writing. Because when you're an academic, you need to produce output. So you need to do
The power
research.
is in the writing.
Yeah, so you need to do research. That's a great challenge. And that challenge, it's a constant challenge. So the greatest challenge is learning to stand out and be respected and be
voice.
welcomed and well received by the students. In terms of colleagues, I didn't have problematic colleagues. Everybody was minding their own business. It was quite a nice environment. But it also has to do with you as well. You know, you also have to be a good person to be around. You know, you must be a nice person. Kindness. You know, kindness really helps a lot. You know, don't be a burden. You know, have respect. So the greatest challenge was standing out, you know, being able to speak in front of students without having them walk out. Or without, you know, the first lecture you'd have 500 and then the next lectures you'd have 10 students. That's also a challenge. So winning the students, that's a very big challenge. And you need to develop it over the years, unfortunately. It's not something that comes automatically. But what happens is that the more you equip yourself, the more you get recognition from students. So the more you learn, you know, the more you also build a bit of a network and you communicate your challenges, you know. I was a bit privileged. I used to speak to older colleagues and explain. And I say, but you know what, I went to class and some students walked out. Then they said, it also happened to me. And I'm like, but you in your 50s. And they said, yeah, welcome to the club. That's what happens here.
And what are the reasons? Are you guys able to then later on connect with students and say, what makes you walk out of a class? Is it because the work is boring or the lecture is boring, or what are some of the students' reasons for just walking out mid-lectures?
Well, I never find out their reasons. I just thought to myself, you know what, you're going to present this lecture, you're going to prepare, and that's
whether it's for 10 or for 500.
Yeah, whether it's for 10, whether it's for 500. I never really wanted to find out the reasons because I didn't want to, what's it called?
Take it personally.
Self-inflicted pain, you know? And I used to think I'm not God. And you know what? One of the reasons or one of the things that made me accept my job was to see myself as a celebrity. Celebrities, they get, you know, they're given names, they're laughed at.
But they keep
They keep on moving. So I thought, no, but you're actually a celebrity here. And
just keep moving.
And that's it. You know, just keep moving, but do your best. But hard work, it doesn't go unnoticed. You know, it took me a while to realize. There was a long time when I thought, I'm just working for the fun of it here. I don't see anything until you get to see that, you know what, hard work, it pays off. And then mentorship as well helps. You know, having a senior, someone a bit senior who's able to relate to the challenges that you have. Because younger lecturers, you know, they blame themselves a lot for things that they don't have control over. So when you speak to someone older, you know, they ask you questions like, did you prepare for the lecture? Did you give it your best? And then you're like, yes. Then they say, but that's the best that you can do. You can't control anything else. So,
and what are the ranks in academia? Like, do you start off as a lecturer, then a senior lecturer, then a professor? Like, what are the ranks?
So you have your tutors, you have academic associates, So
what do academic associates do?
Okay, so I'm going to start with the tutors. The tutors, they're still students. They don't have their degrees yet. So they teach on a very informal level. So they speak the same language as the students because they haven't. You find that that tutor actually dealt with the module maybe a year ago. So they speak the same language. So then you have academic associates. They are
graduates.
They've graduated. Usually it'll be your master's student. So they help us a lot with the administration of the module. But then I love for them to actually be involved with the module content, for them to know that this is what we're teaching. So my aim at the end when I work with an academic associate is for that person to be able to lecture when they're done. So I don't want them to just mark and just see themselves.
Oh, usually they help with like marking.
Yes, they help with marking, but I want them to be involved to know how we set this question and to have an input so that when they mark, they can see where their hard work goes. So you have your academic associates, and then you have your lecturer, your senior lecturer, your associate professor, and then your professor, your full professor.
What makes you graduate to senior and then graduate to professor?
With regards to senior lecturer, each university has their own requirements. Some would want you to have a doctorate.
Okay.
And then some universities, it might be experience or your research output, so the amount of publications and maybe your years lecturing. Then while other universities would require a doctorate. But then to be a professor, definitely a doctorate.
Okay. And would academic associate be able to lecture on the days that you're sick? Because you said you really stand alone. But what happens when you are sick, or maternity leave? Who steps in to your shoes?
In most universities, they'll have more than one lecturer who teaches a module. So at least you have one colleague and then an academic associate will be there. But then with my academic associates, I try to make them involved from day one. So that if anything happens, but it's not only for my comfort, also for them. I think we owe it to them to say, okay, you've been working with us, so you must at least
to do this.
Yeah, you must have a bit of skills. So they stand in when you are not there.
Have you ever sat in on one lecturing, like you are in the room and you sort of assessing their readiness to stand alone?
Yes, I have. I have. But I don't like to do it much.
Does it feel like micromanaging?
Yes. I have.
And I can imagine that every lecturer has their own teaching style, right? Yeah.
And they copy you a lot.
The associates.
Yeah. I usually tell people that I don't manage people. I don't boss them around. I just show them.
And you don't have to sound like me.
Yes. I just show them that, you know what, we're all about working. This is the work ethic. This is the standard. And then you lead by example. Then you'll see they'll start to copy you a lot. Even when they prepare for lectures, you'll see that there's that element of yours there. But then obviously they're individuals. So it'll be different. But you'll see that
the style is mimicking yours a bit. Yeah. Sure. Thank you so much, Keneilwe. In the little time that we have left, is there something that, I haven't asked you that you think it would be very important to share on this platform, or just anything from your own journey where you want to tell someone who is either just starting out, their degree, maybe they're in first year, or just started working? Any words of advice, any gems that you'd like to share, really?
There's no task that is small. It starts there. No task is too small. So whatever task you're given, give it your best shot.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're tested. So a manager, if you're serving articles, a manager can make you do even the most dumbest thing ever.
Like tedious exercises.
And then they're testing you.
Yeah.
So no task is small. That's what I would say. Usually people, when they ask me to do something, they'll say things like, but you have other things to do. But I'm like, no, this is also one of the things that I need to do. So prioritize your work. And then remember that with law, you're there for people. You're there for people. You're not there for yourself, unfortunately. And there's a lot of power within the law. You are in a position where you can inspire a lot of people.
Yeah.
People really love lawyers. So choose what kind of a lawyer you want to be. Do you want to be one that's feared? Or do you want to be one that's approachable but has a very good work ethic? And then another thing, it's really respect people. You really need to respect people. Yeah. And then get on the ground.
Yeah.
Get on the ground, work with people. And then you'll see that you won't be managing people. You'll see that your people will be working without you even being there, you know. But one thing that I'd like to emphasize is respect. People don't have
respect.
Respect is gone out of, it's really gone. And instant gratification. People want that instant gratification.
Everything has to happen now.
Yeah, it can't. And then also be a person who's all about substance. I don't like to move up the ranks quickly. I can be a lecturer for 20 years or a senior lecturer for 30 years, whatever. But when I move to the next level, I must make sure.
You earned it.
Yes, I must make sure that, you know what, I am qualified to do this. So that's why I don't have any fear. If I'm called to say, if they say, well, you're being promoted, I won't have fear on the next job because I know that I've earned it. So independence as well. You need to be very independent. Don't rely on others. Then don't rely on the environment. I don't think there's a very, home is home. Home will always be nice. There's a difference between home and the workplace. Always remember that. So when you're at work, you're there to work. When you're at home, you're there to be yourself.
Yeah.
So make things comfortable for yourself. When you're at work, make the workplace comfortable for yourself. Work hard. And it's very rare to have a very bad experience at work if you are a hard worker and you're easy to go with. Yeah, respect and then greet colleagues. Greet from the, from the lowest. If I'm to say, but there's no one who's low, but I'm just saying from the bottom to the top, always greet.
With the same energy.
Yeah, even your students. Your students as well. Respect your students.
Yes, because you're a role model, like you said. So if you're not going to be a respectful lecturer, what are you teaching, the kids who clearly are still also underdeveloped?
So respect your students. I don't know if it's something that's done a lot. Respect your students. And then also know who you are. I know who I am.
Yeah, self-awareness.
I know who I am. And then I don't, when I stand in front of students, I know who I am. I don't want to.
So nothing will shake you because you know who you are.
Yeah, and I don't want students to have this fear that, I'm not going to be in front of students and say I'm a doctor. No, I know. It's quite obvious, So respect them. Speak to them like you're speaking to colleagues. And then you'll see. And then give them tasks to do. And then also remind them of why they're here. And a bit of sarcasm also helped me in class a lot. You find students misbehaving.
Yeah, it's sarcasm.
They'll be like,
it's that naughty high school.
Yeah, they're
that funny high school child.
They're becoming late to class. They're becoming late to class. I'm like, So actually, your client will be sleeping in jail. You're late. Do you notice? Or your matter will be out of the rollway. You're late, and you say you want to be a lawyer. And then they start laughing. I'm like, no, but this is actually quite serious. But also show them that you care. Show them that you care, but respect. It's very important. I think that's one of the reasons. Within my 13 years lecturing, I don't remember having a lot of student complaints.
Yeah.
Because I've always respected students all the time. I've always respected them. So respect and respect and respect. That's what I want to emphasize.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Keneilwe.
It's a pleasure.
I have learned so much from you, and I'm so happy you're our first lecturer on the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and share your story so authentically and beautifully with us. And I hope you've really touched a listener out there. And I think one of the important things that I try to push on this podcast is just how versatile, like you said at the beginning, this law degree is. And I'm really happy to finally just have a lecturer here, because your voice was literally the only one missing. I've interviewed magistrates, commissioners, attorneys, advocates, so students even. So your voice was just the last one missing from this platform. So thank you so much for honoring the invitation.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. And you at home, don't forget to share this episode with your loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow the podcast on Spotify and all major podcasting platforms. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, please drop a review and also rate the show. I know you guys are listening, so please just do the right thing. That insignificant act goes a long way in creating awareness of this show. And obviously, the more people who know the versatility of, the study of law or what they can do with their qualifications, the better. So please do the right thing. Until next time, goodbye.